Battlefield 6 is now out officially. I've been playing it, I know you have too, and so far, I have to say, it's kind of everything Battlefield hasn't been for about a decade and then some. It plays well, it's responsive, somehow it runs great at launch, which has frankly never been a thing for Battlefield since probably Battlefield 1. Yeah, it's a genuinely fun game so far. The campaign isn't the greatest, I'm almost done it myself. The characters in Battlefield 6's campaign could be summarized as discount Call of Duty characters at best if you ask me. You have Carter, he's basically Frank Woods, but not as cool. Gecko is pretty much Farah from Modern Warfare 2019, but also not as cool either. And the main guy, Murphy, is fine for what he is. They even got a guy called Hemlock that, to me anyways, tries to give off those Ghost vibes, but it frankly just doesn't hit the same. Yeah, what you've heard about the campaign is mostly correct. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. It's not some super interesting plot or anything like that. The enemy faction Pax Armada feels more like a convenient scapegoat as a bad guy, so EA and DICE don't really annoy any one single country when it comes to being the true enemy of the game, I guess. Maybe they reveal who made PAX at the end of the campaign, I don't know yet. I'm on mission 7 myself right now. But from what I can tell is that I'm just, impressed by Battlefield 6, and it's surprising that I'm impressed at all, honestly. Because it's a Battlefield game without the ideology or the broken launch, and it's kind of just humiliating AAA gaming in a lot of ways, if I'm being honest. I think what Battlefield 6 will prove more than anything is that what it is, what it stands for, and how it runs is kind of what players will be expecting in the future now. And I wonder how the game industry will respond to the positive reaction to Battlefield 6 more than really anything else. As seen here from Eurogamer, Battlefield 6 is already one of the biggest Steam launches of all time, and yeah, it shows. It has already beaten the highest concurrent player counts of other games in release like Destiny 2, Apex Legends, and every single Call of Duty game ever made that's available on Steam. If you want its exact placement in the pantheon of Steam games most played, here you go. Battlefield 6 is currently the 14th most played game of all time. And here's also PC Gamer with their article stating that Battlefield 6 is what a well-optimized game should look like in 2025. And yeah, I agree. It runs great and it looks really nice too. It's kind of crazy to play something like Battlefield and then compare it to what has released recently that hasn't run as well, most notably Borderlands 4. Borderlands 4, which was on Unreal Engine 5, was kinda sluggish on PS5, and on PC, yeah, it launched in a horrific state. I tried Borderlands 4 a few days ago after Gearbox released some major updates and patches for the game, and it does run much better now. However, I do think that Borderlands 4's success could have been far greater had it launched in that better playable state than what they did. With Battlefield, it's as if DICE launched their game at the state that it would usually be in like a month or two's time, but instead it's just like that at launch, which is weird. It kind of just runs. Like, sure, I've had some weird graphical glitches here or there, I'm not gonna lie, but my game hasn't crashed. My save data hasn't been corrupted like it was in Battlefield 4. My guns aren't suddenly not registering their bullets or something. The game just simply runs like a video game is intended to run when you pay money to play it. It's sadly, frankly, weird to see this sort of game, which should have been a broken mess like 2042 and 5 were at release, but it just isn't. It's kind of awesome though. It still humiliates the other games around it because Battlefield 6 just feels like the complete package to me. And with this very strong foundation that it has, which is absolutely solid, I can clearly see DICE adding new content to the game and keeping it really fresh and unique for months to come, if not years. And frankly, I was kind of on the fence with Battlefield 6 originally. Could it be fun enough to not really want Call of Duty this year? And honestly, so far, yeah, it kind of is. I don't really feel any need to play COD this year at all. Maybe I will, I don't know. But Battlefield 6 is just kind of what I needed from my modern blockbuster shooting needs. I also really like how I can use any weapon I want on any class now. Running around as an engineer class, rocket launchering tanks while shooting an assault rifle is kind of dope. It's a nice change, and I'm glad it's here. And the shotguns in this game, they just feel right, dude. However, if you're playing on PS5 like I am, maybe consider turning off the adaptive triggers, because to me, shooting guns with the adaptive triggers first, it felt like my controller had gum and sand stuck inside of it. But once I turned that off, which was in the PS5 controller settings, it's not in the actual game itself, yeah, the gameplay dramatically improved even more for me. Obviously, the big change here with Battlefield 6 compared to their other games is that Vince Zampella is the one that is now shepherding the entire franchise forward. If you don't know, he's the guy who originally worked at Activision and helped, make Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Vince Zampella is pretty much the godfather of modern multiplayer shooter games. And if you enjoy the content, consider doing all the YouTube stuff from subscribing and liking the video, thank you. But here's Vince Zampella on Twitter recently, thanking the teams who worked to make Battlefield 6 a reality, saying that there's more to come, and he's very proud of what they've achieved already. And here's also Vince thanking the gaming community for the launch of Battlefield 6. Wow. Imagine that. A guy who makes video games not attacking his consumer base, spreading positivity, and not using his platform to talk down to his players. It could all be so simple. But Vince is cut from a different cloth than the new age developer. He's older and clearly knows that the players always come first, and that you gain actually nothing from attacking the people who will support you. It's just nice to see Battlefield 6 doing so well, and Vince being there and making it all great and such being good. I know, okay, I gotta address this as well, so I will right now. I know there was also one developer who did sort of wish harm on Charlie Kirk, or at least disagreed on him, that, worked on this game. And from what I can tell, this guy hasn't been fired or anything like that as of this video being made anyways. However, from what I gathered online of this dev that talked about Charlie Kirk's passing, who spoke further on things from what I can tell since then as well, and maybe DICE told him to stop sharing his opinions, I don't know, but here's what this dev said, by the way. His name is Brian Audette, as it reads here. Some ideologies are so repugnant, they don't deserve debate, and what Charlie Kirk engaged with was not in good faith. It was inflammatory rhetoric designed to foment the kind of violence that took his life. Spare us your center-right pandering governor. He was talking to Governor Newsom in this tweet, but anyways. I guess this sort of fell under the radar, but yeah, this developer did in fact speak out against Charlie Kirk, and he very clearly did not agree with his way of thinking. This Brian Audette guy is still employed at DICE, and personally, it does kind of skirt a line here. Is what he said as bad as the Ghost of Yote dev? No, not exactly. The Yote dev, Drew Harrison, that's their name, said that Charlie's shooter is cool for what he did, and that Luigi, the guy who shot that healthcare CEO last year, has his back. That's pretty much what Drew Harrison said. But anyway, that Drew Harrison lady was openly celebrating the passing of Charlie with their comment. Brian here is not necessarily celebrating Charlie's passing, but instead he's just saying openly that he disagreed with what Charlie stood for, I guess. While yes, that is still bad in a sense, especially in the wake of his passing, which is now 1 month ago already. Wow, time passes fast, dude. It would be a different story if this Brian Audette here just straight up said, I'm glad he was shot, or, something like Drew Harrison did. Brian also got caught when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled, and then Brian called for others to boycott Disney and such too. Here's what he said. If you haven't canceled your Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN subscriptions yet, what are you waiting for? This is the quickest, easiest way we can signal to ABC and Disney and Trump's next targets that there are market repercussions for fascism and we're not too lazy or afraid to engage them. Brian, what are you doing, dude? Look, you're lucky people are only finding out about this now, than before Battlefield 6's launch. And I do know that Battlefield is more than just this one guy, but this is a blemish, if you will, on Battlefield 6's legacy already. Brian is obviously allowed to have his opinions, but openly calling Trump a fascist or whatnot, it's not going to win this guy any favors. Again, look at what Vince Zampella, like I showed before, did. The guy runs Battlefield. He just thanked the fans, kept the ideology out of it, and it's working. What people like Brian said here is what leads to issues. I wouldn't really say boycotts maybe, because he didn't I guess celebrate the death of Charlie, but you know what I'm saying. But anyways, I do think people will maybe somewhat to some degree maybe boycott Battlefield in a way, but honestly, I don't think it will have much of an effect at all. I do think the game is far too big to be undermined or maybe derailed by this single dev's tweet, and that does work in Brian's favor, unfortunately. It's sort of like how the Fortnite devs who also celebrated Charlie Kirk's passing that I covered in videos from last month as well. Some of these games are frankly so big and played so much that even these boycotts can't exactly work to a degree. However, there's not a lot of games that are impenetrable like this, if you will. Most games can and have faced boycotts, rightfully so, like Yote to name one, or Veilguard as well. But what Brian Audette has said here is not good either way. He is allowed to have his opinions, but as a game developer whose name is attached to Battlefield 6, he does need to know that his words can harm the goodwill and performance of a game that hundreds of people have clearly worked on. Am I telling you to boycott Battlefield 6? Not exactly, because Brian at least didn't wish harm or, celebrate Charlie's death like other devs have. But his comments are more so that he disagrees with him instead. Some may say I'm forgiving this guy or whatever, but I'm really not. If I agreed with him or was biased, honest, I wouldn't even be bringing this up in the video, would I? No. Instead, I'm tackling it head on and showing you what has been said and showing the evidence too. There's a very, very fine line here between celebrating political violence and voicing your opinions on things. Brian, in his case, is just on that line. Lucky for him. But I do think that DICE should very obviously maybe make it mandatory that whoever works there doesn't voice any political opinions in the future. Whether they be right or left, just say thank you for playing the game and just move on with your life. I guarantee you there's more people who think like Brian at DICE too, but the key is that they are professionals and just keeping their opinions to themselves, which is how games used to be made, which is how games should revert back to, if I'm being honest. Brian's words really only hurt Battlefield and DICE. And maybe if these tweets are made more aware to more people through this video at least, we could make it apparent that this division needs to end. And Brian should, definitely rethink saying such things if he wants to ensure that the games that he works on doesn't get pulled into some future controversy. I'm not defending Brian, I'm not agreeing with him either, but it's obvious that he should, not be saying these things out loud, probably. Because it is hateful in a way, and hopefully that covers it enough for people, because I saw someone on social media asking me to react to this or saying that I was ignoring it. But at least in more positive news, as seen here, Battlefield has also issued free XP tokens to PC players because the EA app wasn't working. And this is what I like to see from studios. If things do get messed up somehow, you just reward the players. You don't yell at them or anything like that. You just own up to it, you fix it, and you give freebies. Man, it could all be so easy. Really, what Battlefield 6 has done for the most part, stupid developer remarks aside, has been mostly a great start for this game. And I do hope that more games adopt the way that Battlefield 6 has gone, which is that your game actually works at release, which is sadly, let's be real, uncommon from most AAA, especially on PC, and that you rid your game of any annoying ideology that could cripple it. And instead, you just deliver a fun game. And I mean, Battlefield 6 has missions where you play as a woman too. No one seems to care. The main character in this story is a black guy, by the way. Again, nobody is offended or mad about that either, and neither am I. It's just kind of the blueprint that you can actually have your diversity in your games as long as it doesn't feel forced or, you don't really bring attention to it. I spoke about this in my previous video on Assassin's Creed, but forced diversity never works. And so far anyway, Battlefield just feels normal. You play as black people, white people. You can play Asian women in multiplayer, I guess. No one really seems to care. The only thing I did see some players saying is that they do wish they could play any character model regardless of whatever class they're playing. Maybe they add that one day, I don't know, but that's what I've been seeing as a complaint myself. You also had some content creators that think Battlefield 6 just isn't enough, like Wildcat, who's a YouTuber with over 8 million subscribers, and here's what he said. I'm just gonna say it, I don't understand all this hype for Battlefield 6. No battle royale or extraction or some variation on the formula at launch is a massive loss. Yeah, as you would expect, the people in the comments were, clapping back hard, but he said more, which reads, let me give a bit more context. I think it's a solid Battlefield, but I don't understand what about it has people so much more hype than any other Battlefield in the past that honestly plays exactly the same. And before you reply to me about Call of Duty, I don't get hype for new CODs anymore, so don't think I feel COD Warren's crazy hype either. Well, Tyler, it's simple. People like Battlefield because it's uniquely Battlefield and that it's not Call of Duty. Battlefield is all about the battle of attrition, the feeling of being a small cog in a greater army, fighting to take back an area from the enemy. It's not about running on walls, 360 no-scoping kids while your gun's skin smokes a blunt that yells 420 every time you land a headshot in Call of Duty. It's more of just a realistic shooter. Sure, it has ridiculous moments still, but it's all about team play and the spectacle as the environment around you crumbles and explodes from all manner of vehicles and infantry fighting. I always kind of looked at it this way. Call of Duty is great if you enjoy smaller maps and tighter gameplay, but Battlefield is unmatched in its scope and its spectacle. Nothing in Call of Duty can really match when a whole building is exploding and you're running away as the floors above you come crashing on your head, okay? It just hits different. It's instead about being able to use explosives to clear out walls, to run to the next building beside you, or destroy enemy choke points so that they can't keep spawn shooting your team. And once you add in the vehicles and more, it just completes the experience. Saying that Battlefield needs Battle Royale or some lame extraction shooter slot mode is kind of tone deaf if I'm being real, because Battlefield doesn't really need any of that. It just needs to be Battlefield because that's its core identity. Look at Call of Duty right now. How many players are sick of the awful skins and stupid weapons that look like someone vomited candy all over it? Not to mention all the cheaters too, but this is why I keep saying, as I have in this video, that the main reason why Battlefield 6 is so hyped is just because it's like the older games in the franchise, like Battlefield Bad Company. Everybody loved that game. Bad Company 2 was amazing, dude. And people have just become sick of what modern games have been pushing. Not just an ideology, I mean, but in gameplay design too. Everything needs to up the ante. We need wall running, we need jetpacks, we need little robot dog kill streaks that just hunt you down, whatever it is. Think of it sort of like how young people dress these days, right? The thing that's in right now is to dress like you're born in the 90s, which disturbs me that I'm now old enough that kids look at the decade that I was born in as vintage. Just makes my bones creak, but it is what it is. But how these kids look at the styles of the 90s is kind of how players are looking at Battlefield right now. They don't want robot enemies and laser guns. They tried that sort of thing with stuff like 2042 and whatever else, okay? It didn't exactly go very well. What the industry just needs right now is a return to basics, a return to form, which I hate that term, but honestly, it's kind of true in this instance. We just don't need everything to be rainbow colors and half-shaven haircuts. We just want soldiers, okay? Boots on the ground gameplay where you shoot each other, stuff blows up, and nobody's dropping nukes or something on your head because they spawn camped my team and got however many kills in some COD game. I just want to play an online game, and sure, Battlefield doesn't have ranked modes, at least not yet anyways, but even if they never do, honestly, who cares? Why does every game need to have some arbitrary competitive mode all the time? Can't we just play games and have fun? Can that not be enough? I play Marvel Rivals. I have played like 1 or 2 ranked matches at best, and that's it. Everything else I've done has been quick play. You know why? Because I don't care about proving myself or raising my rank in some multiplayer game. I'm getting older, dude. I just want to play video games and have fun. Level up a bit. Make fun of my friends while we play. Not feel like I need to sweat my gooch 24/7 in order to just play a video game these days. Maybe that's not what everyone wants, but for me, I think that's enough. I think that's something that the industry can just learn from with Battlefield's success. Sure, when the Battle Royale drops, it could be interesting, but frankly, I don't really play something like Battlefield for stuff like that. Fortnite is more so my go-to if I want Battle Royale stuff, because Fortnite systems allow for more wacky, cartoonish abilities and stuff that makes Battle Royale fun. With Battlefield, I don't know at first glance if Battle Royale sounds like it would just be a slog, if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm wrong. Even if I am, it's fine. It's just not really for me anyway, you know? And that's fine. Not everything has to be made for me. I play Battlefield to have a traditional Battlefield experience. I don't go to a steakhouse and complain that they don't have enough options for sushi. I'm at a steakhouse for a reason. I think the industry could learn something here, that you don't need to throw the entire kitchen sink at people to make your game fun. Maybe you just focus on what you're good at and just hone that to perfection. It's like an RPG, you know? It's better to funnel your skill points into one playstyle than spread it too much and thin and then have, none of the later perks that are game-changing in any of those skill trees, if that makes sense. Battlefield is like if DICE just spec'd 100% into like a tank class, and that's good enough. It doesn't need to spec into other classes because it's better. It's just good at what it does, and that's all it needs to be. I do think Battlefield, regardless, does kind of humiliate other games these days because of how polished it is, and how it is a big-budget game seemingly completely devoid of political ideology. I mean, like I said earlier, the fact that the main villains of the game are the Pax Armada military organization, where the people you fight in that, by the way, they all have different accents because the group is international. That just tells you that Battlefield and DICE aren't trying to offend any one person with this game. Besides that Brian guy, which is the single most unfortunate stain on an otherwise solid experience that hopefully DICE deals with at some point. Like as GameSpot reported here, Battlefield has made well over $100 million already. Isn't that what you want? A game that doesn't divide players? Even Alania Analytics said, as seen here from Steam alone, that Battlefield has made over $100 million, not including PlayStation and Xbox. So it's likely they probably made back their budget or maybe near it in just one day at launch. Yeah, this is going to be one of the biggest game launches of the year by far. And all I can hope is that the industry takes the right lessons from Battlefield 6 and applies it to their own games in the future. Don't alienate your fans, don't attack them, don't push stupid nonsense as it's clearly not worked at all in your favor before in your games. Just make fun games that run well at release and offer up content that justifies people to spend the asking price for your video game. And as it becomes more competitive to earn player spending, it'll be more important to not alienate them either. As seen here from Video Games Chronicle, in America anyways, about 60% of players only buy 1 or 2 video games the entire year these days. This all comes from Matt Piscatella of Circana, who analyzes games and spending habits, but here's what Matt shows with his graphic on screen via Blue Sky. And as you can see, the number of players who buy games often is kind of dwindling, and with so many new games coming out all the time, these companies now have to compete with smaller shares of the pie so that they are the game that you buy out of the 1 or 2 that most players do a year. Battlefield 6 is likely one of those games that these kinds of players are probably going to buy, and they did that through brand recognition, good word of mouth, and the lack of ideology. Which is why it's important to ensure that if you do have any Brian Audit-like employees, maybe tell them to keep their opinions to themselves, because the future of games is getting more competitive than it ever has. And if you want your game to be the next Battlefield 6, you have to ensure that you don't anger the consumer base in any way. Because if you do, well, we know how that goes, don't we? But in the end, Battlefield 6 is a triumph despite that stupid dev being an absolute moron. And it proves and humiliates the industry by releasing an ideology-free game that is just meant for fun. And I hope the industry learns that, but I guess we'll see in the future. But what do you think about all of this? Will you buy the game? Has the devs' comments made you not now want to buy it? Let me know. Thanks for watching as always, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.